Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he walked through the muddy wheat field. The storm last night had been terrible. Thunder and lightning had shaken his small house for hours. Now the morning sun was hot and he needed to check. If the storm had damaged his grandfather's old farm, Jake was 28 years old and lived alone in Montana. He made money by finding old metal and selling it to scrap yards. It was not much money, but it was enough to pay for food and keep the lights on. His grandfather had left him the farm when he died, but Jake was not good at growing crops. The wheat field was mostly empty now, except for weeds and mud dot as he walked between the rows of broken wheat stalks. Something caught his eye. There was a huge dark shape sticking out of the ground near the back of the field. Jake had never seen anything like it before. The shape was mostly buried in the mud, but he could see it was made of metal. It looked like a big piece of an airplane or maybe a truck. Jake walked closer to get a better look. The metal was not like anything he had ever seen. It was dark gray and covered with strange lines that looked like they had been carved into the surface. The lines made patterns that hurt his eyes when he looked at them too long. Some of the lines were glowing with a soft blue light. The buried object was huge. Jake guessed it was about as long as a school bus and twice as wide. Most of it was still underground, but the part he could see was smooth and curved. There were no windows or doors that he could find. The whole thing looked like it had been made by machines that were much better than anything humans could build. Jake pulled out his phone to call his friend Danny Phillips. Danny had worked on airplanes in the Air Force before he came back to Montana. If anyone could tell him what this thing was, it would be Danny. "Danny, you need to come out to my place right now," Jake said when his friend answered the phone. "I found something really weird in the field." "What kind of weird?" Danny asked. "Did you find another old tractor buried in the mud?" "No, this is different. This is really different. Just come out here and bring your tools." Danny arrived an hour later in his pickup truck. He was a big man with strong hands and grease under his fingernails. He had been fixing engines and machines since he was a teenager. When he saw the buried object, his eyes went wide. "Holy cow, Jake, what is that thing?" Danny walked around the visible part of the object, touching the strange metal with his fingers. "This stuff is lighter than aluminum, but it feels stronger than steel." "And what are these glowing lines?" "I don't know," Jake said. "I was hoping you could tell me." "Do you think it's some kind of military thing? Maybe it fell off a truck or something?" Danny shook his head. "I've never seen anything like this. The military doesn't have technology this advanced. This looks like something from a science fiction movie." The two men spent the next 3 hours digging around the object with shovels. The work was hard because the mud was thick and heavy. As they dug, they uncovered more of the strange metal surface. The glowing lines were everywhere, making patterns that seemed to move when they were not looking directly at them. "Jake, come look at this," Danny called out. He was kneeling next to a section of the metal that looked different from the rest. "I think this might be some kind of door or hatch." Jake walked over to see what Danny had found. There was a rectangular section of the metal that had thin lines around its edges. The lines were glowing brighter than the others, and they seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. "Should we try to open it?" Jake asked. "I don't know." "What if it's dangerous? What if there's something bad inside?" Jake thought about it for a moment. He had always been curious about things. When he was a kid, he would take apart old radios and clocks just to see how they worked. His grandfather used to say that curiosity was both his best and worst quality. "Let's try it," Jake said, "but let's be careful." Danny nodded and pulled a crowbar from his toolbox. He slid the end of the crowbar into the thin line that went around the rectangular section. The metal was so hard that the crowbar barely made a mark. "This isn't working," Danny said. "The metal is too strong." Jake was frustrated. He wanted to know what was inside the object. Without thinking, he pressed his hands against the glowing lines and pushed as hard as he could. The metal was sharp, and one of the edges cut his palm. Blood dripped from the cut onto the glowing surface. Suddenly, everything changed. The moment Jake's blood touched the metal, the entire object began to hum. The sound was low and deep, like the engine of a huge ship. The glowing lines became brighter and started to move faster. The rectangular section that Danny had been trying to open suddenly slid away into the metal, revealing a dark opening. "Jake, what did you do?" Danny stepped back from the object, his eyes wide with fear. "I don't know," Jake said. He was staring at his cut hand. The bleeding had stopped, and the cut was healing faster than it should have. "I just touched it." Light began to shine from inside the opening. It was not normal light like from a flashlight or lamp. This light was blue and white and seemed to move like water. The light got brighter and brighter until it filled the entire opening. Then something impossible happened. The light began to form shapes in the air above the opening. The shapes looked like words, but they were not in any language Jake had ever seen. The strange words hung in the air for a few seconds, then changed into English words that Jake could read. "Genetic scan complete. Operator identification confirmed. Welcome, pilot." Jake and Danny stared at the floating words. Neither of them could speak. The words changed again. "Emergency protocols activated. Pilot medical condition stable. Beginning integration process." "Integration process?" Jake said out loud. "What does that mean?" The floating words answered his question. "Integration process allows pilot to interface with Stormbreaker combat systems. Beginning basic instruction protocol." More lights began to shine from inside the opening. Jake could see that the inside of the object was not dark and empty like he had expected. It was filled with surfaces that glowed with soft light. Everything inside looked clean and new, as if it had just been built. "Stormbreaker," Danny whispered. "Jake, I think this thing is some kind of weapon." The floating words changed again. "Stormbreaker is a Catherian battle mech, designed for planetary defense operations. This unit has been dormant for 847 Earth years. Previous pilot killed in battle against Zerathi forces. Seeking new pilot with compatible genetic markers." Jake felt dizzy. The words were talking about things that did not make sense. Aliens and battles and genetic markers. But somehow he could understand what the words meant. It was as if the knowledge was being put directly into his brain. "Compatible genetic markers found in current subject," the words continued. "Probability of successful integration, 97.3%. Does pilot wish to proceed with integration?" Jake looked at Danny. His friend was backing away from the object, shaking his head. "Jake, don't do it," Danny said. "We don't know what this thing is. We should call the government or the military or somebody." But Jake was not listening to Danny anymore. He was thinking about the words floating in the air. The object, Stormbreaker, was looking for a pilot. It had been waiting for hundreds of years for someone with the right genetic markers. And somehow Jake was that someone. Jake took a step toward the opening. The blue and white light seemed to welcome him. "Yes," he said, "I want to proceed." The moment he spoke, the light surrounded him and pulled him into the object. Danny shouted his name, but Jake could not hear him anymore. He was inside Stormbreaker, and everything was about to change. Jake found himself sitting in what looked like a chair made of the same strange metal as the outside of Stormbreaker. The chair was comfortable and seemed to fit his body perfectly. Around him, panels of blue light covered the walls. The lights showed pictures and symbols that moved like they were alive. "Welcome, Pilot Jake Morrison," a voice said inside his head. The voice was female and sounded kind. "I am Arya, the artificial intelligence that controls Stormbreaker's systems. I have been waiting a very long time for a new pilot." Jake looked around the small room. He could not see where the voice was coming from. "Are you talking inside my head?" "Yes," Arya replied. "The integration process allows us to communicate directly. Do not be afraid. I will not hurt you or control your thoughts. I am here to help you learn how to use Stormbreaker's abilities." Jake tried to stand up, but the chair held him gently in place. "Let me go. I want to get out of here." "I understand your fear," Arya said. "But please listen to me first. When you activated Stormbreaker, you sent a signal across the galaxy. Other machines like me receive this signal. Some of them are friends, but others are enemies. The enemies are already coming to Earth? The panels around Jake showed new pictures. He saw images of space with stars and planets. Then he saw something that made his blood run cold. Dark shapes were moving between the stars. The shapes looked like huge insects or spiders, but they were made of metal and flesh combined together. What are those things? Jake asked. They are called the Zirathi, Arya explained. They are a species that conquers planets and uses all the living creatures on those planets to make themselves stronger. They have been looking for Catherian technology like me for hundreds of years. Now they know that Stormbreaker is active, and they are coming to Earth. Jake felt sick to his stomach. How long do we have? Their fastest ships will arrive in approximately 72 hours, Arya said, but do not lose hope. Stormbreaker is one of the most powerful weapons ever created by the Catherian Empire. With proper training, you can defend your planet. The pictures on the panels changed again. Jake saw images of the Catherian people. They looked almost human, but they were taller and had silver skin. They wore armor that looked like it was made of light itself. The Catherians were my creators, Arya continued. They were a peaceful people who only fought when they had to defend themselves or others. They built machines like me to protect worlds from the Zirathi, but the Catherians are gone now. Their empire fell long ago. I am one of the last of their battle mechs still working. Jake finally understood what was happening. So now it's just me and you against these Zirathi things? Not just us, Arya said. There are other Catherian machines scattered across the galaxy. Some are battle mechs like me. Others are different kinds of weapons and tools. When you activated me, you also activated a network that connects all of these machines. We can call for help if we need it. The chair finally released Jake, and he stood up. The room was bigger than he had thought. There were controls and screens everywhere. Everything was designed for someone about his size, which was strange since the Catherians were supposed to be taller than humans. Why does everything fit me so well? Jake asked. Stormbreaker adapts to its pilot, Arya explained. The ship scanned your body and adjusted everything to work perfectly for you. This includes the controls, the seat, even the air mixture. Stormbreaker wants you to be comfortable and effective. Jake walked over to one of the control panels. When he touched it, the screen lit up with more symbols and pictures. Somehow, he could understand what they meant. It was like reading a book in a language he had never learned but could somehow understand perfectly. How can I read these symbols? Jake asked. The integration process downloaded the Catherian language directly into your mind, Arya said. You now have access to thousands of years of Catherian knowledge about combat, technology, and strategy, but do not worry. This knowledge will not change who you are. It will only help you use Stormbreaker's systems. Jake spent the next hour learning about Stormbreaker's abilities. The machine was incredible. It could fly through space faster than any human rocket. It had weapons that could destroy entire buildings with a single shot. It had armor that could protect against almost any attack. Most importantly, it could learn and change based on how Jake used it. Stormbreaker will become more powerful the more you use it, Arya explained. The machine studies your fighting style and your way of thinking. Then it creates new weapons and tactics that match your personality. No two Catherian battle mechs are exactly the same because each one learns from its pilot. Jake was amazed, but he was also worried. Arya, I'm not a soldier. I've never been in a fight in my life. How am I supposed to use this thing to fight aliens? You do not need to be a soldier, Arya said. You need to be yourself. The Catherians chose humans as potential pilots because humans have something special. You call it creativity or ingenuity. You can solve problems in ways that no one else can think of. This is why Stormbreaker accepted you. Outside, Jake could hear Danny calling his name. He had been inside Stormbreaker for hours, but it felt like only minutes had passed. I need to go talk to my friend, Jake said. He's probably worried sick. Of course, Arya said. But remember, you cannot tell anyone about me or about the Zirathi. Not yet. Humans are not ready to learn about alien life. The panic would make things worse. Jake nodded and walked back to the opening where he had entered Stormbreaker. The opening was still there, but now it looked like a doorway made of light. He stepped through it and found himself back in the muddy field. Danny was standing nearby, holding a shovel like a weapon. When he saw Jake, he dropped the shovel and ran over to him. "Jake, where have you been? You disappeared for 3 hours?" "I was about to call the police." Jake looked back at Stormbreaker. From the outside, it looked like nothing had changed. The opening was gone, and the machine looked like just a piece of buried metal again. "I was just inside looking around," Jake said. "It's some kind of old military vehicle. Probably from World War II or something." Danny looked suspicious. "Jake, you were gone for 3 hours, and this thing was humming and glowing the whole time. What's really going on?" Jake hated lying to his best friend, but he remembered Arya's warning. "I don't know, Danny. Maybe it's some kind of experimental plane that crashed here a long time ago. The electronics are probably still working a little bit." Danny did not look convinced, but he did not ask more questions. They spent the rest of the day covering Stormbreaker with old tarps and branches, so it would not be visible from the air. Jake told Danny that he wanted to research the object before he decided what to do with it. That night, Jake lay in his bed, thinking about everything that had happened. In 3 days, alien invaders would arrive at Earth. They would try to destroy every living thing on the planet. The only thing standing between Earth and total destruction was a salvage dealer from Montana, who had never fired a gun in his life. Jake got up and walked to his window. He could see the field where Stormbreaker was hidden. The machine was not glowing now, but Jake could feel it waiting for him. Somehow, he knew that Arya was still there, monitoring the skies and preparing for the battle that was coming. "I can do this," Jake said to himself. "I have to do this." He did not know it yet, but at that very moment, the Zirathi Advance Fleet was already moving toward Earth. Their bioships were traveling through space at incredible speed, hungry for the billions of humans who lived on the blue planet. The Zirathi had destroyed 17 worlds before Earth. They had never lost a battle, but they had never fought a human before. And they had never faced someone who could think like Jake Morrison. Jake woke up to the sound of his phone ringing. It was still dark outside, and his alarm clock showed 3 in the morning. He grabbed the phone and saw Danny's name on the screen. "Jake, you need to turn on the news right now," Danny said. His voice was shaking. "Something terrible is happening in Antarctica." Jake stumbled out of bed and turned on his old television. The news channel was showing pictures of a research station in Antarctica that had been completely destroyed. The buildings were melted and twisted like they had been hit by a giant blowtorch. Smoke was rising from the ice, and there were strange holes burned into the ground. Scientists at the McMurdo Research Station stopped responding to radio calls yesterday evening, the news reporter said. Satellite images show that the entire facility has been destroyed by an unknown force. Military officials are calling it a terrorist attack, but no known weapons could have caused this kind of damage. Jake felt his stomach drop. This was not a terrorist attack. This was the beginning of the Zirathi invasion. "Danny, I need to go," Jake said into the phone. "I'll call you back later." "Jake, wait. This is connected to that thing in your field, isn't it? You know something about this?" Jake hung up the phone and ran outside. The morning air was cold, and frost covered the ground. He could see his breath as he ran across the field to where Stormbreaker was hidden under the tarps. "Arya!" Jake called out as he pulled away the branches and tarps. "Arya, can you hear me?" The metal surface of Stormbreaker began to glow, and the doorway of light appeared. Jake stepped through it and found himself back in the pilot's chair. "I have been monitoring Earth's communication networks," Arya said. "The Zirathi scouts have arrived earlier than expected. They destroyed the research station to test human defensive capabilities." "How many people were killed?" Jake asked. 47 humans were at the station," Arya replied. "I am sorry, Jake. The Zirathi do not take prisoners. They consume all biological matter to fuel their ships and weapons." Jake felt sick. 47 people were dead because of him. If he had not activated Stormbreaker, the Zirathi would never have come to Earth. "This is my fault," Jake said. "I should never have touched you." "No," Arya said firmly. "The Zirathi have been expanding across the galaxy for centuries. They would have found Earth eventually. At least now Earth has a chance to defend itself." The panels around Jake showed new images. He could see the Zirathi bioships hiding on the dark side of the moon. The ships looked like giant insects made of metal and flesh. They were covered in spikes and tentacles that moved like they were alive. Jake counted at least 20 ships, each one the size of a football stadium. "Why are they waiting?" Jake asked. "Why don't they just attack?" "They are studying human technology and behavior," Arya explained. "The Zirathi are very careful. They want to understand Earth's defenses before they launch their main attack. But they will not wait much longer. I estimate they will attack within the next 24 hours. Jake knew he had to do something. He could not let the Zirathi destroy Earth like they had destroyed 17 other worlds. But he also knew he could not fight them alone. "Arya, I need to tell the government about you. They need to know what's coming." "That is very dangerous," Arya warned. "Human governments might try to take control of Stormbreaker. They might not trust you to pilot it." "I have to try," Jake said. "People are going to die if I don't warn them." Jake left Stormbreaker and drove his truck to the nearest town. He went to the police station and asked to speak to someone in charge. The police officer at the front desk looked at him like he was crazy when Jake said he had information about the attack in Antarctica. "Sir, you need to calm down," the officer said. "If you have information about terrorism, you need to provide evidence." Jake realized that no one would believe him without proof. He drove back to his farm and called Danny. "Danny, I need your help," Jake said. "And I need you to trust me, even if what I'm about to tell you sounds impossible." Danny came over an hour later. Jake took him to the field and showed him Stormbreaker. When the machine activated and the doorway of light appeared, Danny's eyes went wide. "Holy cow, Jake! What is that thing?" "It's a weapon built by aliens," Jake said. "And there are other aliens coming to destroy Earth. I know it sounds crazy, but you have to believe me." Jake took Danny inside Stormbreaker and let him talk to Arya. The AI explained about the Zirathi and showed Danny the images of their ships. Danny listened to everything without saying a word. "So, you're telling me that you're the only person on Earth who can pilot this thing?" Danny asked. "That's right," Jake said. "But I can't do it alone. I need help." Danny was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded. "What do you need me to do?" Jake and Danny spent the next few hours making a plan. They decided to contact the government, but they would do it carefully. Danny had a friend named Lisa Carter who worked for the FBI. She had investigated strange cases before and might be willing to listen to them. Lisa came to the farm that evening. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and serious eyes. She carried a briefcase and looked like she meant business. "Danny says you have information about the attack in Antarctica," Lisa said. "I hope you're not wasting my time." Jake took Lisa to see Stormbreaker. When the machine activated, Lisa pulled out her gun and pointed it at the glowing doorway. "What kind of trick is this?" she demanded. "It's not a trick," Jake said. "Lisa, we're all in danger. You need to listen to what this machine has to tell." Arya spoke through Stormbreaker's external speakers so Lisa could hear her. The AI explained about the Zirathi and showed Lisa the satellite images of their ships. Lisa stared at the images for a long time. "These ships are really there?" Lisa asked. "Behind the moon?" "Your space agencies have not detected them because the Zirathi use biological technology that does not show up on human sensors," Arya explained. "But they are there. And they are planning to attack very soon." Lisa put away her gun and opened her briefcase. She pulled out a satellite phone and made a call. "This is Agent Carter," she said. "I need to speak to Director Peterson immediately." "Yes, I know what time it is. This is an emergency." Lisa talked on the phone for 20 minutes. Jake could not hear what she was saying, but she sounded very serious. When she hung up, she looked at Jake and Danny. "A military team is coming here tomorrow morning," she said. They're going to want to see this machine and talk to you about the aliens. But Jake, I need to warn you. They might not let you keep control of this weapon. I understand, Jake said. But they need to know what's coming. And they need to know that I'm the only one who can pilot Stormbreaker. That night, Jake could not sleep. He kept thinking about the Zirathi ships hiding behind the moon. He thought about the 47 people who had died in Antarctica. He thought about the billions of people on Earth who did not know that aliens were planning to destroy their planet. Jake got up and walked to his window. He could see the field where Stormbreaker was hidden. The machine was glowing softly, and Jake knew that Arya was watching the skies for any sign of the Zirathi attack. I'm not ready for this, Jake said to himself. I'm just a guy who sells scrap metal. How can I save the world? But even as he said it, Jake knew he had to try. He was the only person on Earth who could pilot Stormbreaker. He was the only thing standing between the Zirathi and the destruction of every living thing on his planet. Tomorrow, the military would come. Tomorrow, Jake would have to prove that he could use an alien weapon to defend Earth. Tomorrow, the real battle would begin. In space, the Zirathi ships were moving. Their biomechanical sensors had detected the human military communications. They knew that their presence had been discovered. The time for hiding was over. Prime Nexus Vexstar, the leader of the Zirathi fleet, gave the order to begin the attack. His ships moved out from behind the moon and started toward Earth. The invasion had begun. Jake stood in the field watching military trucks drive up the dirt road to his farm. There were 6 trucks filled with soldiers, plus several black cars with government officials. Lisa Carter walked beside a tall man in a general's uniform. Jake could tell by the way everyone moved that they were all very nervous. Remember what we talked about? Danny whispered to Jake. Stay calm and tell them the truth. The general walked over to Jake and held out his hand. I'm General Patricia Hayes, she said. Agent Carter has told me some very interesting things about you and your discovery. Jake shook her hand. General, I know this is hard to believe, but we don't have much time. The aliens are going to attack. Soon, General Hayes looked at Stormbreaker, which was still covered with tarps. Agent Carter says this is some kind of alien weapon. I'll be honest with you, Mr. Morrison. I've seen a lot of strange things in my career, but I've never seen anything like what she described. Show her, Jake, Lisa said. Show her what Stormbreaker can do. Jake pulled away the tarps and branches. The soldiers raised their weapons when they saw the strange metal surface with its glowing blue lines. General Hayes held up her hand to stop them from shooting. Arya, Jake called out. We have visitors. The doorway of light appeared in the side of Stormbreaker. Several soldiers stepped backward and pointed their guns at the opening. General Hayes stared at the light with wide eyes. It's safe, Jake said. The machine wants to talk to you. Arya's voice came from speakers that Jake had not seen before. General Hayes, I am the artificial intelligence that controls this battle mech. Agent Carter has told you about the Zirathi threat. I can provide you with proof. The air above Stormbreaker began to glow, and images appeared like a giant television screen made of light. The images showed the Zirathi fleet moving through space toward Earth. The alien ships looked even more frightening in the daylight. They were covered in spikes and tentacles that moved like they were alive. These ships will reach Earth's atmosphere in 18 hours, Arya said. They carry enough firepower to destroy every major city on your planet. Each ship also carries thousands of Zirathi warriors who will consume any humans they capture. General Hayes was quiet for a long time. She studied the images and asked Arya many questions about the aliens and their weapons. Finally, she turned to Jake. Mr. Morrison, Agent Carter says you're the only person who can pilot this machine. Is that true? That's what Arya tells me, Jake said. Something about my genetic markers being compatible with Catherian technology. Have you ever flown anything before? Helicopters? Planes? Jake shook his head. I've never even been on an airplane, but Arya says the machine will teach me what I need to know. General Hayes looked worried. Mr. Morrison, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but this is a military situation. We need trained pilots operating our weapons, not civilians who have never flown before. With respect, General, Arya said. Your military pilots cannot interface with Catherian technology. Jake Morrison is the only human on Earth who can pilot Stormbreaker effectively. But he will need support from your military forces. Over the next few hours, more government officials arrived at the farm. Scientists came to study Stormbreaker. Military experts came to plan a defense against the Zirathi. Jake felt overwhelmed by all the attention, but he tried to answer everyone's questions. Dr. Amanda Price, a scientist who studied alien life, was especially interested in Jake's connection to Stormbreaker. She ran tests on his blood and found that he had genetic markers that were very rare in humans. Less than 1 person in 10 million has this genetic combination, Dr. Price explained to General Hayes. It's like Jake was born to pilot this machine. Meanwhile, a computer expert named Ryan Murphy was trying to understand how Stormbreaker's technology worked. He connected human computers to the alien machine and was amazed by what he found. This technology is thousands of years ahead of anything we have, Ryan told the group. The artificial intelligence is more advanced than our best supercomputers, and the weapon systems are beyond anything I can understand. While the scientists and military experts studied Stormbreaker, Jake was learning more about the machine's capabilities. Arya took him through training simulations that taught him how to fly and fight. The training happened inside his mind, so he could learn years of combat experience in just a few hours, but Jake also made an important discovery. During one of the training sessions, Arya showed him detailed scans of human genetic patterns from around the world. Arya, why are you scanning other humans? Jake asked. I have been studying your species since you activated me, Arya replied. Humans have something that I have never seen in any other species in the galaxy. You have an extraordinary ability to adapt and solve problems under pressure. The Catherians called this the evolutionary spark. Jake did not understand what that meant. What's so special about that? Most species think in predictable patterns, Arya explained. When they face a problem, they use solutions that have worked before. But humans are different. You create new solutions from nothing. You can take completely unrelated ideas and combine them in ways that no one else would think of. Arya showed Jake images of human history. She showed him how humans had invented tools, built cities, and explored space using creativity and determination. This is why Stormbreaker chose you, Arya said. Not just because of your genetics, but because you think like a human. You solve problems in ways that surprise even me. Jake began to understand what Arya meant. When he was working in the salvage yard, he often had to fix broken machines using parts that were never meant to work together. He would combine pieces from different machines to create something new that worked better than the original. So you're saying that humans are good at improvising? Jake asked. More than that, Arya replied. Humans refuse to give up even when the situation seems hopeless. You keep trying new approaches until you find one that works. This is very rare in the galaxy. Jake shared this information with General Hayes and the other officials. Dr. Price was fascinated by the idea that humans had unique problem-solving abilities. That explains a lot about human history, she said. We've survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that should have destroyed us, but we always find a way to keep going. General Hayes began to develop a new strategy based on Arya's observations about humans. Instead of trying to fight the Zirathi using conventional military tactics, they would use human creativity and adaptability as weapons. The Zirathi have conquered 17 worlds, General Hayes said. They probably expect us to fight like every other species they've faced, but we're going to do something they won't expect. We're going to fight like humans. The plan was complex and dangerous. Jake would pilot Stormbreaker in the main battle, but he would not fight alone. Teams of humans would work together using whatever they could find to create weapons and defenses. Farmers would turn their tractors into mobile weapons platforms. Engineers would modify construction equipment to fight alien bioships. Even ordinary people with no military training would help by thinking of new ways to surprise the enemy. Ryan Murphy found other pieces of Cytherian technology hidden around the world. Small devices that had been dormant for centuries suddenly activated when humans with the right genetic markers touched them. Most humans could not pilot a full battle mech like Stormbreaker, but some could use smaller Cytherian weapons and tools. Maria Santos, a Navy pilot, was able to interface with a Cytherian flight system. Tyler Brooks, a young man who was incredibly good at video games, could control Cytherian targeting computers. Elena Vasquez, an engineer, could understand and modify Cytherian technology using her intuitive understanding of how machines work. As the Zirathi fleet moved closer to Earth, Jake felt more confident about the coming battle. He was not just one person fighting against impossible odds. He was part of a team that included the best of human creativity and determination. "We're going to show these aliens something they've never seen before," Jake said to General Hayes. "They think they know how to conquer worlds, but they've never fought humans before." The Zirathi ships entered Earth's atmosphere just as the sun was setting. Their biomechanical hulls glowed with an evil green light as they descended through the clouds. The invasion had begun, but Earth was ready to fight back in ways the aliens could never imagine. Jake sat in Stormbreaker's pilot seat as the alien battle mech rose into the night sky. Below him, he could see the lights of cities across the world. Millions of people were looking up at the stars, not knowing that their lives were about to change forever. "Jake, I'm reading 53 Zirathi bioships in Earth's atmosphere," Arya said. "They are spreading out to attack major population centers. The main mothership is staying in high orbit." Through Stormbreaker's sensors, Jake could see the Zirathi ships descending like giant spiders made of metal and flesh. Each ship was the size of a football stadium and covered in weapons that glowed with green fire. The ships moved in ways that no normal aircraft could move, twisting and turning like living creatures. "This is General Hayes," a voice said in Jake's helmet radio. "All human forces are in position. Maria, Tyler, and Elena are ready with their Cytherian equipment. Remember, the plan is to work together and use our creativity to surprise the enemy." Jake took a deep breath. "I'm ready, General. Let's show these aliens what humans can do." The first Zirathi ship attacked the city of Los Angeles. Green beams of energy shot down from the ship and destroyed entire buildings in seconds. But the humans were ready. Modified construction cranes swung massive electromagnets that disrupted the alien ship's electronics. Fire trucks sprayed specially mixed chemicals that ate through the biomechanical hull. Even ordinary citizens helped by using mirrors to reflect the ship's own energy beams back at it. Jake flew Stormbreaker toward the largest group of Zirathi ships. As he got closer, he could see that the ships were even more horrible than the pictures had shown. They had eyes and mouths that moved like they were alive. Tentacles covered in sharp spikes reached out toward him like the arms of an angry octopus. "Jake, be careful," Arya warned. "These ships are partially alive. They can think and adapt to your attacks." Jake fired Stormbreaker's energy weapons at the nearest ship. The blue beams cut through the alien hull like a hot knife through butter. But instead of exploding, the ship began to heal itself. The metal and flesh grew back together, making the ship stronger than before. "That's not good," Jake said. "How? Do we fight something that can heal itself?" "Try a different approach," Arya suggested. "Remember what we learned about human creativity. Don't fight the way the ship expects you to fight." Jake thought about the problem like he was back in his salvage yard. When he found a broken machine that he could not fix with normal tools, he would try something completely different. He would use parts in ways they were not designed to be used. Instead of shooting at the ship, Jake flew Stormbreaker directly into it. The alien ship was expecting an attack from a distance, not a close-range collision. Stormbreaker's armor was stronger than the bioship's hull, and Jake punched a hole right through the middle of the alien craft. "That worked," Jake said as the damaged ship fell toward the ground. "But I can't ram all 50 ships. I need a better plan." While Jake was fighting in space, Maria Santos was using her Cytherian flight system to attack ships over New York City. Her small fighter craft was much faster than the big alien ships, and she could fly in ways that confused their targeting systems. Tyler Brooks was using Cytherian targeting computers to coordinate attacks by human military forces. Elena Vasquez was modifying captured alien technology to work with human weapons, but even with all their creativity and teamwork, the humans were losing. There were too many alien ships and they were too powerful. Several cities had already been badly damaged, and thousands of people were dead or missing. "Jake, you need to get to the mothership," General Hayes said over the radio. "Our scientists have been studying the captured alien technology. Dr. Price thinks she's found something important." Jake flew Stormbreaker toward the huge Zirathi mothership that was waiting in high orbit. The ship was 10 times larger than any of the other alien vessels. It looked like a giant spider with 100 legs, each one ending in a massive weapon. "Dr. Price, what did you find?" Jake asked as he approached. "The mothership." "Jake, the Zirathi aren't really evil," Dr. Price said. "They're slaves. Elena found something in the alien technology that changes everything. The Zirathi were once a peaceful species, but they were infected by a biomechanical virus that controls their minds." Jake could not believe what he was hearing. "Are you saying they don't want to destroy planets?" "That's exactly what I'm saying," Dr. Price replied. "The individual Zirathi are trapped inside their own bodies. The virus makes them attack other species and consume biological matter to make itself stronger. Elena thinks we might be able to free them." Jake looked at the mothership through Stormbreaker's sensors. For the first time, he could see past the weapons and armor to the creatures inside. The Zirathi looked like tall, thin beings with 4 arms and large eyes, but their bodies were covered in biomechanical implants that glowed with the same green light as their weapons. "Arya, can you scan the Zirathi and see if Dr. Price is right?" Jake asked. "Scanning now," Arya replied. "Jake, Dr. Price is correct. The Zirathi are being controlled by a biomechanical virus that has infected their entire species." "The virus is what makes them attack other worlds?" Jake felt a mix of anger and sadness. The Zirathi had destroyed 17 worlds and killed billions of innocent people. But they were not evil monsters. They were victims of something even worse. "Can we help them?" Jake asked. "It might be possible," Arya said. Cytherian technology was designed to fight this type of biomechanical infection. But freeing the Zirathi would be extremely dangerous. The virus will try to defend itself. Jake made a decision that would shock the entire galaxy. Instead of destroying the Zirathi mothership, he flew Stormbreaker directly toward it and opened a communication channel. "Zirathi mothership, this is Jake Morrison of Earth," he said. "I know you can hear me. I know you don't want to be doing this. We want to help you." The response came immediately. "Human, you do not understand. We cannot stop. The virus controls us. We must consume your world." "But some of you are fighting the virus right now," Jake said. "I can see it in your bio readings. Some of you are trying to resist." There was a long pause. Then a different voice spoke, weak and frightened. "Help us, please. We remember who we used to be. We don't want to hurt anyone." Jake felt tears in his eyes. "Arya, can you create a signal that will disrupt the virus?" "I can try," Arya said. "But the signal will need to be broadcast from inside the mothership. You will have to get very close to their central computer system." Jake flew Stormbreaker into the mothership through a weapon port. Inside, he found corridors filled with Zirathi who were fighting against their own biomechanical implants. Some of them were trying to help him, while others were still controlled by the virus and attacked on sight. Working with the freed Zirathi, Jake and Arya created a signal that could break the virus's control. But the signal was not strong enough to reach all the Zirathi ships at once. "We need the Zirathi to help us," Jake said. "We need them to choose freedom." Jake broadcast a message to every Zirathi ship in the solar system. He told them about the signal and asked them to choose for themselves whether they wanted to be free. It was the biggest gamble in human history. One by one, the Zirathi ships stopped attacking Earth. The individual Zirathi inside the ships began to fight against the virus that controlled them. Some ships broke free completely. Others were destroyed as the virus tried to maintain control. But more and more Zerethi chose freedom over slavery. The battle was not won with weapons or violence. It was won with compassion and the belief that every intelligent being deserved to be free. When the fighting was over, Jake stood on the observation deck of the first Earth space station, watching as former Zerethi bioships worked alongside human spacecraft to explore new star systems. The galaxy had learned that humans were not just good fighters. They were also capable of mercy and forgiveness on a scale that no other species had ever imagined. "You know," Jake said to Arya, "I never thought I'd be standing here watching former enemies become friends." "That is the most human thing about you," Arya replied. "You see possibilities where others see only problems. You saved not just Earth but an entire species. The galaxy will never be the same." Jake smiled as he watched the ships working together. He was no longer just a salvage dealer from Montana. He had become something the galaxy had never seen before. A human who proved that sometimes the greatest victory comes not from destroying your enemies, but from saving them.